Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet and all things related to the carnivore diet and miscellaneous odds and ends. If you're new here to the channel and wondering what in the world am I watching, well, I'm just an old retired truck driver out here trying to put my common sense spin on health and nutrition. What are my qualifications for talking about health and nutrition? Not a one. I'm a retired truck driver. But I have, since starting the carnivore diet 8 months ago in a couple of days, lost a little over 125 pounds and corrected many ills. So, while I'm certainly not an expert, I have done a lot of reading and a lot of studying in the last... I actually started researching this about a month before I started it. So I now have 9 months of what I would consider very intensive study into the subject. Watched a lot of videos, read a lot of supporting research. Honestly, watched a lot of crap out there too. Today is Tuesday. You guys, of course, will see this on Wednesday. So from your perspective, today is Wednesday, which means the Senior Saint revival that's been going on here will be finishing up last night. We had a good meeting last night, which was actually Monday night. And we went over to a little restaurant in town, the only restaurant in town, and had breakfast this morning. That was an adventure. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. And then I am now out here walking, recording tomorrow's video. In between the morning event and the evening event, we're having our regular Senior Saints get together tonight. But the food and games will be followed up by another revival preaching session. This guest speaker they brought in from about 2.5 hours up the road has been really good. I'll try to remember to put his name on the screen about here. So if you want to look him up, you can. But yeah, let's get back to this breakfast thing. I mean, I understand the girls were busy because there were, 25 of us there for breakfast. That's not going to work out right. The sun's just in a bad spot. Sorry about that, guys. But they were bringing everybody out a plate of food, and of course I got a piece of sausage and 2 strips of bacon on a plate with scrambled eggs. And you know those 3 compartment plates? The bacon and sausage were in one of the small ones. The eggs were in one of the small ones. And they had the great big section of the plate filled up with grits. Now, I'm not originally from the South, and I like grits, but grits aren't on the menu anymore. And eggs aren't on my menu right now because they're still making me a little sick. I tried some just a few weeks ago that a kind soul here at the church brought me from their farm. And even farm fresh eggs just make me sick to my stomach. So they're still off the menu. So I ate the 2 strips of bacon and the piece of sausage and put the rest to the side. And I asked the gal that was bringing the plates out, I said, I know you're really busy, but could I place an order of my own and pay for it? And And she said, no, we're not making any more breakfast right now. This is just for you guys. And so I'm like, okay. So I just decided I was just going to have the 2 pieces of bacon and the little piece of sausage, and then I'd make something when I got back to the trailer. And then I wasn't going to say anything anymore. But just as things were wrapping up, the owner came by the table, and she said, you haven't eaten anything. And before I could open my mouth, one of the friends of mine sitting at the table said, well, he's on this crazy diet where he only eats meat. But it seems to be working because he's down 125 pounds. And she looks at me and says, is there anything else I can get you? I said, well, if you got any more of that bacon and sausage hiding back there, I'd be happy to have some of that. And just a couple minutes later, she came out with another bowl that had, it was obviously whatever was left in the bottom of their pan they were making plates out of, but it was very good. It was 7 or 8 big chunks of bacon and a couple of big chunks of sausage. And I offered to pay her for them, and she's like, oh, no, don't worry about that. So that worked out okay. We'll see how the bacon and sausage affect me, because I haven't had any pork in quite some time. But I do love bacon, and that bacon was really good. Before I get too deep into this thing and forget to say it, I don't think he watches my channel, but just in case, and I know a lot of you watch them, so don't forget to pop in on one of Sean Baker's videos, Dr. Sean Baker's videos today, and wish him a happy birthday. I believe he said he turns 56 today, which means he's now into the power slide to 60. So Dr. Baker, if you're watching this, happy birthday. You're certainly an inspiration to a lot of us out here. If you guys haven't watched his most recent short video, you should. He's talking about something that I've talked about quite a few times on this channel, and it's important enough, and some of the things he said I couldn't believe I was hearing. But apparently, I mean, it's obviously true, because Dr. Baker is a very reliable source of information. And you know, on this channel I've talked a lot about not so much kids, but the overall health of this country, and the world for that matter, is becoming worse every year. But now he's talking about they're offering these new drugs that are supposed to help with weight loss. That once you start taking them, you basically got to take them forever. I guess what they do, because we've talked quite a bit about how you don't actually add fat cells. Your fat cells just get bigger. Well, apparently this drug disconnects something in the body, and you can actually make new fat cells, and those fat cells stay smaller. But the second you stop taking the drug, all those new fat cells start growing, so now you have even more fat cells that can hold fat, and you get even bigger than you were before. So your choices with this drug therapy are take it for the rest of your life, or don't ever start taking it. And It's my understanding it's about $1,200 a month. And apparently, listening to Dr. Baker, I haven't actually seen the research or any of that kind of stuff, but apparently there have been some cases where people were taking this drug and then their insurance decided to stop paying for it. Of course, most of us, most of you watching this channel, if I said all of a sudden you have to pay $1,200 a month to watch my videos, I'm going to lose all my subscribers, because there's not very many of you that could afford that. And to be honest, my videos aren't worth $1,200 a month. But that's where these people are at. So they either got to come up with a spare $1,200 a month that they don't have, or stop taking the drug and get even fatter than they were before. Because they took a shortcut. And instead of figuring out proper healthy eating habits, which, big drug, big food want nothing to do with, because it affects their bottom right hand corner at the end of every month. So it's up to us to spread the word by sharing this video and others like it with as many people as we possibly can. Oh, and thank you guys, by the way. This morning I was looking at stuff and realized I'd broken the 2,900 subscriber mark. That still just blows me away. I was excited when I broke the 50 mark. I still couldn't believe there were 50 of you that wanted to hear what I had to say. And now we're just shy of 3,000. About 95 to go to get to 3,000 of you that actually want to hear what I have to say. Unbelievable. But thank you. It means an awful lot to me. I can never tell you how much it means, because there just aren't words for that. But what I was just talking about, that's not the thing that's making me so angry today. And it should make you angry as well. They're offering this drug therapy to kids as young as 13 years old. They're even offering gastric bypass surgeries to kids that young. Are they really so desperate? They being the drug companies and the big food companies. So desperate to have lifelong customers that they're willing to destroy kids, childhoods. And parents and grandparents, don't buy into this. Oh, obesity is not a lifestyle problem. I didn't realize it was a lifestyle problem. Well, I knew it was a lifestyle problem, but I didn't realize that I could do anything about it because of the conditions that I had. All of the avenues that seemed to be worth checking out were obviously off limits to me because I had gout. And then when that whole narrative, the things that I had known since 1983 as fact, when all those things were turned completely on their head, and I realized I was given wrong information, not by malice. I mean, even if I could, I wouldn't go back and sue any of the doctors that I've had over the years, because they didn't know any better either. But all of the information that I knew as fact from the time of 1983 till now was just wrong. Don't believe that, oh, it's not really a lifestyle thing. Parents, grandparents, you got to get after it. Part of the problem is the food that we're feeding to our kids. Oh, well, little Johnny's a picky eater. He only likes this. Does Johnny have a job? Does he buy his own food? Put food on the table 3 meals a day, or 2 meals a day, or whatever it is. I know they're out at school and they feed a lot of kids at school these days, but when they're at home with you, this is the food I made. Trust me, if they get hungry enough, they'll eat it. Oh, they gotta have something to eat. I gotta make sure they get something in their stomach. Really? We won't even really talk about it, although I am going to talk about it, because I just said we're not going to talk about it. But, you know, when I was a kid, getting sent to bed without supper was a very common punishment. None of us died because of it. And kids are not going to be harmed by missing a meal or two, especially if they're overweight. And that's a big chunk of it, what they're eating. And you all know my stance on exercise. I believe in it. I think it's good for you. It's not required to lose fat. But I can't believe that kids sitting around on the couch playing video games all day is good for them either. And if they're not interested in doing any kind of active games, that's on you parents. That's on you grandparents. Find an activity to do with them that gets them up off the couch, out of the house, and moving a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot to start with. Just get them started in the right direction. You know, take them out on a nature hike. Take them to a planetarium or a zoo or any kind of museum, kids museums. Help them find things that they're interested in, that they'll be willing to put down the video game to go do. And I think that'll help a lot. Because yes, there's an obesity epidemic in this country. And at this point in their life, you know, anyone under the age of 18, they're victims in all this. And there's plenty of blame to go around. I mean, we can look at big pharmaceutical companies. We can look at the big food companies. We can look to the schools that have been feeding them this crap while they're there. Because we never got any of that kind of crap when I was a kid. Now, granted, they were food pyramid lunches, so they were certainly not carnivore or even keto or ketovore. Those, weren't even really words when I was a kid. But they were what we believed at the time was healthy. But now you look around the country, and I'm sure many people working in schools across the country believe that they're doing the right thing. by feeding what it is they're feeding to our kids while they're at school. But just look at the results. You know, in 8th or 9th grade, I was certainly not fat. But I was a heavy-set kid. Always been a heavy-set kid. Since I stopped dancing. Or dancing as much. You know, it used to be when you go to dance classes 4 or 5 times a week, just like Dr. Fruit, who goes out there and surfs all the time. If you stay active enough, your body will tend to take care of itself. And that's all I'm saying here. You know, the people at school don't really have any malice. They're not attempting to make your kids fat. But just look, I was one out of maybe, you know, take an elementary school class, 30 or 40, or a high school class, I think there was 485 or so in my graduating class. There were a couple of big guys in that group, but by today's standards, none of us were what we would call fat. Not by a long shot. I mean, I was still obviously within the guidelines of getting into the military. Now, granted, I was at the very top of the guidelines. But I was still within the guidelines. Nowadays, just go take a look. You know, if you got a grandkid in 4th or 5th grade, take a look at their class photo. Not their, you know, their entire class. And count how many kids, just by glancing at them, you would say, wow, that kid's on their way to type 2 diabetes in 20 years. It's unbelievable. And that's the litmus test that seems to have escaped a lot of people. I mean, what changed? From the time I was a kid to the time we're kids now, food choices. I mean, the environment is still basically the same. Maybe a hair more polluted now than it was, but in some areas it's cleaner. I mean, I remember going to dance a show in Pittsburgh. First time I was ever in Pittsburgh. We couldn't touch any of the buildings because you'd get this black soot all over yourself. And now, it's a very clean, nice city. So we've made a lot of improvements. We won't talk about the political ramifications of the Carter administration and all the EPA guidelines and what it did to the economy of the Ohio River Valley. You can look that up on your own. But from a purely clean standpoint, Pittsburgh is much cleaner today than it was back in the 70s. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so the environment may have changed a little bit here and there, but you'll never convince me that that's why there's such an obesity problem. Our activities have changed. We went from go outside and play to sitting in a chair playing video games all day. But as we've explored on this channel before, while lack of inactivity can aid, or lack of activity, I said lack of inactivity. Lack of activity can aid in what, in the amount of weight that these kids are gaining, but not to this extent. It has to be the food they're eating. Because, not just me, but many people, that if I had time to name them all, this would be a several hour video, that have lost their first 30, 40, 50, even up to 100 pounds before they even thought about starting an exercise program. Because prior to that, they just couldn't. So we've talked about that a lot, and you just don't have to exercise to drop fat. And if you don't have to exercise to drop fat, although it is recommended that you do by me and many others, stopping the playing of games on the playground and going to a straight video game environment not going to be the only factor in why the kids are bigger. A lot bigger. Take a look at some pictures. Just pick a local beach in your area. Go back and see if you can find some pictures from the 70s. And now find some current pictures. Compare the two. The pictures in the 70s, you had to actually search the picture to find the overweight people. And somebody morbidly obese, like I was, say, 5'6.5" to 5'7", more than 350 pounds. Those are very, very rare in pictures you find from the 70s. Today, it's not hard. Just go to your local Walmart, sit down on one of the benches and watch for 10 minutes. You'll see quite a few of them come waddling by. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not fat shaming. I'm not calling them out because they just don't know any better. I'm calling out their parents and their grandparents. Get on these kids. Because drugs and life-altering surgeries that they'll have for the rest of their life are not the answer. They're just not. Some surgeries are required. If I hadn't had the triple bypass when I had it, I wouldn't be alive today. I would have been dead probably about 4 years ago. But anything that can be corrected by just diet, why in the world would you ever have surgery? Now, if you're my age or older and you've tried everything and you're just trying to live a little longer and be a little healthier, and you decide surgery is okay, it's what you want to do, then I say more power to you. Go get that done. But a 13-year-old kid, I don't have a whole lot of memories when I was 13, but You know, it was back when making mud balls to throw at your sisters as they walked out of the house was high quality entertainment. Our brains aren't fully formed when we're 13 years old. To say that they can make an informed consent about something that will affect them for the rest of their lives is just absurd. Okay. Sorry this turned into kind of a rant video. But here I am out walking. If you're still hanging around, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up if you like what I said. If you don't like me, go ahead and hit that dislike button twice to let me know you really don't like me. But share this, and anybody else in this space that's not talking nonsense, share it with whoever you can share it with. Because you never know who you're going to reach. And that's really why I still do this. Because I know a few of you. Because you leave comments regularly on my videos. We chat in the comment section. You're in my Facebook group. That kind of stuff. But you never know who the next person to hit play on a video is going to be. And how you may or may not change their life. I'm sure Dante had no idea what was going to happen to me when he recorded that video 125 days on the lion diet. But take a look at me now. I'm smaller than I was when I was discharged from the Army. And that was in 1983. So that's a lot of years that I was overweight and sick. As Dr. Barry likes to say, and will probably say many times, one of my favorite quotes of his: "This is not your fault, but it is your problem." So get out there and do something about it. Fix yourself first. Lead by example. That's sort of what the theme of the Senior Saint Revival has been. Lead by example. Hang on just a second, guys. I got to stop the trailer and take my coat off. The sun came out and now it's 55 degrees and this jacket feels kind of hot. Be right back. And just like that, I am back again. Through the magic of editing, it'll be like I was never gone. But lead by example. You know, my niece and nephew have seen pictures of me that I've posted up on Instagram. I don't post much on Instagram. I concentrate on YouTube. I do have an Instagram account. I've got that Facebook group. They've seen some, and they're like, wow. Now that they've seen what I've done with my life, they're willing to listen. My nephew doesn't really need a whole lot of advice because he's in pretty good shape for a kid his age. I worry about my niece. She's always been a pretty big kid. And now she's getting to that point where she's old enough where things are going to start to go sideways for her. I hope she takes to heart some of the lessons I'm teaching here. but she is at least willing to listen. They don't listen much because I'm one of them crazy people, but they at least can see the results. People here at the church, I don't know of anyone whose life I have changed yet, but I know there's quite a few people coming up asking me questions, and I'm certainly happy to answer them. So, lead by example, folks. You never know who's going to be watching. So get your own house in order, and then get out there and take responsibility for your kids and your grandkids. See to it that they don't end up on the same path in life that we've been on. But I have certainly rambled on enough here. I'm gonna walk a couple more laps, and I'll have some closing thoughts for you at the end. But for now, let's cue the music. Okay, cut the music. Thank you. Sorry I got into a little bit of a rant there in that video, but some of the things they're doing to our kids just make me mad. But I want to cover one more quick thing while I'm standing here against my truck. Oh, and as an update, yes, my shoulder does still hurt a little bit. It is still getting a little better every day, but it's been a week now and it still hurts. So I'm going to have to take it easy for a bit. Try to move it as little as possible for a few more days. Hopefully that makes it better. I'm starting to suspect I may have a little bit of a cracked bone in there. But if it was broken and there were chunks out, it would hurt a lot more than it does. And I would feel the instability in my joint. There's no instability, there's no redness or swelling. So I may have a little hairline fracture in there somewhere. that unless I want to have surgery, the only thing they can do for me is tell me to take it easy for a while. So I'm just going to skip all those steps and take it easy for a while and see what happens. Now, if it still hurts in another week or two, then I may go take further action. But I've had a couple of different people send me emails requesting that I talk about Dr. Gundry and his latest video. I don't really do that on this channel. That's not really my thing. However, I'm happy to report, if you haven't seen, by the time you're seeing this video and get to this point in the video, about a half hour ago, Professor K released a video talking about this very doctor. So I suspect he'll have plenty to say about that. So after you're done here, I'd flip on over to Professor K channel and watch him put right where this Dr. Gundry is wrong. Because, you know, I talked about it a little bit a few videos ago about people with large followings and MD after their name can get away with, you know, saying whatever they want. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I can't refute things like that. All I can do is what I'm asking you to do. Pay attention. Keep it simple. 90% of your journey can be accomplished by eating the meat, adding the salt, and drinking the water, and just see where things go. I'm sure Professor K's video is going to be very enlightening. But that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you enjoyed today just a little bit. Don't forget to get out there, be 1% better. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you tomorrow.